Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 12 of the SA Wine Lockdown. We are more than halfway into our journey now with this hashtag, and I would like to welcome three very special guests for our topic today, which is hidden gems. And I really have found some great gems today, and it is Jacques, winemaker from Zandvliet Wines. I've got Nico van der Merwe, who produces his own wines called Nico van der Merwe, and I've also got Dave from Spiderpig Wine. So welcome, gentlemen, and thank you very much for joining this evening.
How are we doing?
Thanks. Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure. Jacques, would you maybe like to start, introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit about your wine career?
Yeah, thank you. No, it all started about 20 years ago. After school, I didn't go and study immediately. Went overseas to UK, worked there a little bit, and travelled to Europe. And then went to Elfsburg and study viticulturist and the rest. And eventually, my first stint was at Ristenfriede with Louis. That was for a harvest, and I went to Morgenhof, honey from Riani. Did about eight vintages at Morgenhof, and then I came over to Zandvliet for my ninth vintage this year at Zandvliet. So yeah, that's sort of in short very much what I've done the last 20 years.
Wow, yeah, so your ninth vintage at Zandvliet, that's great for the 20th year. Cool, okay, thank you very much. Yeah. And Nico, maybe you can explain a little bit about your career in winemaking.
Yes, I have, in fact, wasn't born with wine. So I spent some time in Stellenbosch before I went to Elsenburg, and later on studied there and did some job here in South Africa. And then I was lucky to walk a bit away, but still in the old world where it was not easy as a South African to be outside there. But I studied in Germany. And I came back, and I was at different jobs here in South Africa. But once I walked in Pretoria, and there was on a building site a little script there, and it said, "If you dream too long, you may fall asleep." And I thought, okay, dreams comes true. So 99 was my first vintage for the private wine. Of course, I did work for some other people, but my philosophy or my hope or my dream was, in fact, yes, to have something on my own. And we started it small, and of course it's a family operation. I don't have any vineyards, but we have a complete cellar. And yes, we have 99 till today. We are still on the market. We survive. And all what I can say is, yes, the way to private, if you have if the funds are not there, then of course you need to share, you need to deliver your goods somewhere else and then do something on the side and focus on that. So this is how we started with our own winemaking here.
Wow, what a great story. And Dave, also, you've got a new brand out called Spiderpig Wines, and maybe just tell us a little bit about your career in winemaking.
Yeah, well, I'm starting to feel like an old dog now. 5 years into this venture, but nice to be with pristine, esteemed company with Nico over there. I've drank many bottles of his wine, so it's always good to see him in person. The Spiderpig was just for a term for everyone to understand, was pretty much a sort of a passion project to start off with. We are not essentially winemakers. We actually use 7 different winemakers to collaborate with, and we sort of classify ourselves as a creative marketing wine brand. So we had an idea, and we saw a gap in the market where we wanted to make sort of wine fun and inclusive again. We sort of go into the high epilage. We're just trying to get people drinking more, getting excited about it, find a different way of looking at getting people to drink wine and drink more wine. And sort of those who are sort of sitting on the cusp, they're not really understanding a little bit about wine, to give them a fun brand to sort of work with that. So my experience essentially has been sort of 22 years of hospitality. So, we've had there's enough data for me there, dealing with a lot of customers in every sort of basis, and having sort of a passion for wine in that sense, especially South African wine. to see that there was an opportunity for us to do this. And, you know, where we've got to now has been because of the people itself. And, you know, to have the sort of, how do I say, the opportunity to be able to go out there and choose specific wines that we want to put under our brand that are sort of either trending right now or could be hidden gems in itself, to get people excited about something they haven't known about under maybe a less intimidating label.
Yeah, and you've got the cool cap to match that. You've got a Spider Pig cap. That's very cool.
Plenty. I think we've done about 20 different versions of this already. So yeah,
It's such a fun name.
People enjoy it. I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, I think if you go back to Nico's question, if you're looking to, you know, someone trying to get into wine, you've got to be having some fun with it. You know, some sort of a personal attachment to it, because otherwise it's just going to be a labor, and it should be a labor of love.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure Jacques and Nico can agree with that. Absolutely a labor of love. And today is all about hidden gems. And the part of the challenge for SA Wine Lockdown was to go into your wine supply. And now, you know, we all got a lot of wine, all of us. So I'd be interested to what you found in your house today. And what I found was actually a Groot Santa Kraal Pinotage, and it is a limited edition. It's a 2017 vintage. And yeah, it's just quite an interesting wine. I've just poured it now, and lots of fruit and black cherries coming through. And it's got a lovely smooth tannin and a beautiful dark violet color. So a really beautiful wine from the Durbanville Wine Valley. If you haven't visited this estate yet, they've got quite a cute little tasting room. So after lockdown, I would recommend that you guys go there and check it out. A nice restaurant and a great craft shop as well. We even go shopping. So yes, that's what I'm drinking this evening. Jacques, tell us a little bit about what you found in your massive wine cellar behind you.
Well, in my glass, I found, I've got the Kalkveld. It's 2016 Kalkveld Shiraz that I'm enjoying. Yeah. What's special about that wine? It comes from a specific block on the farm, and yeah, it's very rich in kalk, in chalk. Yeah, you can get that in the soil, but the Robertson Valley has got some of the highest chalk deposits, and it definitely does have an influence on the wine. The other one that I also did find in the cellar, but I'm not going to open it now. What I'll show you is the 1975 Zandvliet Shiraz. So that was the first vintage release of Shiraz. So
sorry, what vintage is that? 1975.
You see. So yeah, that was the first Zandvliet Shiraz made. It was released in '79.
Nice.
I was fortunate to open it last year, one bottle, shared it with a couple of special friends, and yeah, it was holding up very nicely. So yes, from my side, I found in the cellar.
And I must say that is quite a hidden gem, yeah. A 1975. Wow, I wonder how many people have such an old vintage in their house, huh?
No, definitely not many.
Not many, no, definitely not.
No. We actually, the story goes about 3 years ago. It was 2016. A lawyer from it was Lord Falk from Franschhoek. He phoned me and said he's dealing with the estate of Kwesi Coetzee, who passed away, and he said they found some old wine cellar. Would I like to buy it? And it was still wrapped with the original in the original box and everything packaged, and not a scratch on the label. And yeah, so we bought the 12 bottles. We were missing that vintage at Zandvliet back there. We bought bottles, and yeah, tasted 2 so far. So they 2 were very nice. Older than me, so I had to stand while I was enjoying the glass of wine from the 75. And that's what you do if you drink a wine. You have to stand up out of respect.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I think Shelley was saying that it was 1975 was the year that she was born, so she doesn't have to stand when she drinks the wine, but I would definitely need to stand for that. And yeah, so quite a nice tradition there that you have to stand when you taste a wine that was made before you were born.
Yeah.
Okay,
I like
and
Wine should have cool traditions like that.
yeah, absolutely. Okay, and thanks, Pippa. Yeah, it is absolutely a gem. Nico, tell us what you're drinking this evening.
Yes, we have the 2015 Mas Nicolas. Mas Nicolas is the, call it my first wine, or the wine with which we did start this private event, venture. And love for Shiraz was always there, but as we tasted some other international wines, I always noticed that the moment you blend in some Cabernet Sauvignon, the quality is always a bit better. And originally we wanted to do like Shiraz Cabernet with something else, and but it never happened. And as it is today, it is fine. And called Mas Nicolas because, you know, a joke about the name is that in those days, as you know, all the jokes in South Africa was about Koos van der Merwe. So I couldn't or didn't want to put my surname on the label. So, but designer in Cape Town said it's easy. You just chop off one A and then it's Mas Nicolas. And I thought because a Mas is a maison, it's just a country house, and I thought I will never have a chateau or so. And the M and the N, and so we started off with the Mas Nicolas, and I had it as Mas Nicolas Cape. So all the vintages from 1999 till 2013 was as Mas Nicolas Cape to indicate that it is a wine from South Africa, from the Cape. But unluckily nowadays, the Cape blend is on the market, and certain people then believe it's a Cape blend, and I'm not Pinotage at all. So we have it now as Mas Nicolas Stellenbosch. Stellenbosch internationally, what I notice is most of those who drink wine know where is Stellenbosch in which country, and so. And 2015, of course, the bold one, one of the nice vintages. Yes, only Stellenbosch grapes. I do buy in grapes from certain farms, and my advantage and disadvantages, the one fills the other one, because for many years I was responsible for buying in grapes in all of Stellenbosch, and I could see how do grapes perform from different farms in the cellar during fermentation, in the wood, in the bottle, and how does it taste after certain, well, say more than a couple of years in the bottle. And that in fact gave me my touch with where to buy the grapes in Stellenbosch. And my philosophy is the producer, he calls the price, I do call the quality. I don't bother with them, they look after the vineyards. When it's ready, I have my own transport, and then we do the winemaking here. And yes, only French oak. Those days, of course, in the beginning, American oak was very much there, but nowadays I think the spiciness, people are more fond of that. So I follow that, and I think also the climate change is a bit more for, say, the American oak style, French oak style wines instead of that rich vanilla flavors. And we have. I follow the way of only the nice vintages I will have under the Mas Nicolas label, because in the beginning, many years ago, there were a lot, or maybe today some, but they follow each vintage, so they know which were the ones a bit more diluted or the other ones whatsoever. For me, it is being so small with no money for advertising and marketing move around. So I rather than produce and bottle only the nice vintages for the Mas Nicolas, because this wine needs to put out the reputation there itself. And I think that ought to give a bit of a guarantee. The 2017, for instance, did score very well. I had it message on 1st of April. I thought it was April, a 1st of April joke, but yes, the Mr. From the Americans, they liked it. They scored it 92 points, so I am quite fine with that. The 2015 has a 4.5 letter star. The 13 on the market now has a 5-star. End of the day, yes, I'm not so much in, and I'm not negative about it, but you know, it's nice to have the stickers on the bottle, but there are also a lot of people who as they put it to me, say they don't want buy stickers. They discover the wine, taste it, and like it. for me, NF is, yes, marketing, you need to use all the tools, but the Mas Nicolas is more the heavier style. And also the joke is, yes, a nice heavy wine for a big piece of meat. And then a lot of people nowadays, they are vegetarians. So, and of course, it also goes very nice with pasta. So this is the first thing at the moment. And of course, a couple of the wine critics are concerned about high alcohol and so on. High alcohol, of course, 15 or much more than 15 years, it is a bit of pain. But the Mas Nicolas is around about 15% alcohol. This is the natural alcohol, full ripe grapes from the vineyard. So there I don't interfere. If the alcohol is at 15, I leave it as it is. And all what I can say is, yes, they then say not a lunchtime wine, but dead sure for dinner and your meat or your pasta.
I love that explanation. And Pippa even said, you know, she loves hearing the stories behind these wines. And I had no idea that you were in such a position to name the wine a specific way. You know, that is quite funny. You're quite a funny guy, and I must say, it's nice hearing your stories. Thank you very much. And I love how you said, you know, it plays well with steak, but these days a lot of people are vegetarians. Oh, that just cracked me up. And yeah, I think the wine could go very well with pasta too. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, and then we have Dave from Spider Pig Wines. Tell us a bit about your brand.
So yeah, so I don't really have vintages from 1975. I don't think I was even born then. It's I'm not going to give my age.
You don't think so, or you know so?
I wasn't born then. Today I've brought out our Sensational Cinsault. So there it is, the Sensation. Can I get that right? There we go, Sensational Cinsault. So this is a wine that sort of we start off with all the caricatures on our labels as such, and then, you know, with the 9 blocks up here, we thought, you know, this was an element to sort of bring in again a brand recognition. And we wanted to definitely put a Cinsault into our portfolio because we felt that the movement in South Africa at the time was that Cinsaults were making a sort of big comeback in that sense, you know, being a sort of heritage grape and seeing it in a lot of blends and people not really understanding what it is, but sort of seeing it as sort of a geeky sort of craft sort of wine. You know, it was an opportunity for us to bring in a great wine and showcase what's out there with traditional Cinsault winemakers. And we actually did this wine with Alex Milner out of Natterfilet. It's a blend of 60% Swartland Cinsault and 40% Simonsberg Paarl Cinsault. So it's quite a radical wine, I find. You know, it's offering a lot of sort of frontal fruits, a lot of cherry, sort of rich cherry, sort of the young cherry, not a dark cherry, sort of a ripe cherry. There's a bit of bitterness to it, which is nice. I think that you get from a bit of Cinsault. There's a bit of lightness to it, but there's also a bit of subtle spice coming in there just to hold it up in the backbone side. But it's not a super serious wine, but it can be taken that way. But I think for summertime, even in winter, it's just a light ready to drink. It's super tasty. Brings that fragrancing. I think also for Syrah drinkers, this is a kind of a Cinsault that people would enjoy from the fragrance side of things. But it's just a great little sort of spicy wine in that side of it. The name Sensational Cinsault is when you taste and involve with wine, you got to use all your 6 senses. So if you think of Spider-Man using his spidey senses, and, you know, we came with that and we thought, okay, what do we call the wine? And we're like, well, you know, what does it taste like? Well, that tastes sensational. We're going, oh, but if we change the words and lettering around, we'll just call it sensational. So Sensational Cinsault was just born in that way. And the sensation, which is your sensations, just happened to fit in the 9 blocks on the label. And that's where we came to that wine. It was pretty much just some roundtable thinking.
Oh, what a great.
So is everyone still there?
Yeah, also, yeah. What a great wine philosophy, you know, to create these kind of, you know, off the cuff kind of exciting blends that people can experience. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be interesting. I mean, you get a guy like Nico on my sort of immediate left here. I mean, it's iconic stuff that's going there. I mean, I would put that 2015 away for, if I'm really good, maybe 5 years before I'd review that. I mean, it's just going to get better and better.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're getting some comments coming in, and thank you very much for those that are watching and asking questions. Please do keep them coming. It's lovely to hear from you, and we're here for you guys. So if you have any questions, ask away, and we'd be happy to answer them. We've got Alvina here who says, yay for the Spider Pig, sensational sensor. So it sounds like she has tasted that wine before. So
Excellent.
that's
I'm
really
going to teach you on her spelling that.
And I have a quick question here from Gerard. Where does the name Spider Pig come from? But I think you explained that a little bit, but maybe you can just answer him on that.
Yeah, so look, I mean, everyone gets inspiration from something. You know, we've been asked that question a lot. There was a song that came out of the Simpsons movie way back in, I think it was 2002. And it's the Spider Pig sort of, you know, it was something that just resonated in your ear, like an earworm as such. And we thought, you know, what a great name to call a wine brand, because it would be memorable. You know, when you went into a tasting where you tasted, say, a few hundred other wines, there'll be one wine that you remember the most because it just stood out like that, and Spider Pig was born on that. The rest that came with it was pretty much just sort of organic growth in our sort of thinking creative space. But that's what we just said. It was just like a name that just jumped out of us and that sort of thing. But, you know, like people have inspiration from their grandmothers who've had previous farms, or that their dog who's been through certain vintages, with their inspiration just happens to come from a cartoon character.
Yeah, and I absolutely love that. You know, I can every time I read the name, I sing the song, and it is very much like an earworm. So yeah, very cool.
That is what Nico referred to as marketing.
Oh, there you go, Nico. So on to my first question, and this is for Jacques. I have a question. What would you classify as a hidden gem wine?
For me, it's something, it's outstanding. It could be new, it could be old. Not a lot of people seen it or know about it. Like I showed you older vintage, like maybe Spider. It could be something out of the ordinary. We've been cleaning cupboards at home, and of course the children found some old toys that's now new, and one of them said, "Hey, so you didn't gem yet?" So it's something like that. So for me, wine-wise, it could go into my father's cellar and find something that has been touched for a couple years. That's for me a hidden gem, or maybe a special story behind the wine and how it's made and where it comes from. So you've got many different sides on or takes on this.
Yeah, that's quite true. You know, it can be, you know, an older vintage, or simply just something that you think is quite special and no one else has that. And Nico and Dave, do you have anything to add to that question? What would you classify as a hidden gem?
Yes, for sure. If something is like everywhere available in all the wine shops and all the restaurants, then sure it will not be hidden gem. And of course, if again, it's about quality, about quantity, and as I said, about vintages. Not every vintage it is there, so if you have to go and hunt a bit for it, and then of course new wines, new style of wines, new discovery, something which is not like well written by. So it is in fact sometimes very nice to go to certain wine tastings, and as you said, also older vintages, and because often you know a lot of the old wine farms wine, and then to wine tastings, and with not enough time, you tend to taste more, say, only the new ones. And then often you would say, okay, let's try something of the old estates, and then they have old wine there. They happen every year there in Cape Town, the Red Wine Review, and then you say, okay, so, and there, of course, some of the old vintages, a very nice one, which did develop then as a very nice wine over many years. So yes, hidden gem, that sure will not have, if it's freely available, that's not a hidden gem. So, and of course, all wine, if hidden gem or whatsoever, but especially hidden gem, so it has to be lekker. Not the top wine, but lekker wine, interesting wine. And I'm also sure that everyone will have a bit of a different idea of hidden gem because of the different tastes.
Yeah, and I would also say, you know, it is a hidden gem if it's quite hard to get your hands on. That's a very nice way to explain it too. And you, Dave, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, certainly. I think the sort of, as Nico said, the rarity of the situation is what it really sort of adds to the fact of it being a hidden gem. You know, it could be, I mean, wine is also very sort of personal, so it could speak in different sort of elements to any sort of individual. But I think it's when you're not looking for it and it presents itself, that kind of sort of find something hidden. And I think that's kind of the thing with wine. You know, when you can't look for something specific, it's going to take you to a certain direction. But to use a sort of local example, often in my wine travels, going to Durban and walking to some sort of old tops in sort of Pietermaritzburg and finding sort of vintages of South African wine that have been tucked away, haven't been bought, that are just still on the shelves. They're sort of going for 100 Rand a bottle, and finding a Newton Johnson Cabernet 2003. And I phoned Bevan, and I didn't even know he made Cab. And he says, you know, that's a long time ago. I mean, for me, that was like, you know, straight into the shopping basket, couldn't wait to open that up. You know, sort of, I think it's when you're looking for it, it's going to present itself. And that's when you've got to sort of open up your mind and just take it all in.
I love that explanation too. You know, when you find one, absolutely buy it. And I'm sure you definitely can't wait to open that wine too. And for saying here, for Jacques, 1975 is without a doubt a hidden gem. And Clive here is saying, lekker wijn, I love it. And I have a question here from Werner. Value versus taste. Best hidden gem I like is Chateau Libertas. So that's quite funny too. Okay, so we've got
all the vintages. I mean, if he's finding Chateau Lib from the 90s, those are really good.
Yeah, absolutely. I know my dad used to love that wine. He used to every day drink that wine. Okay, so on to the next question, and this is for you, Dave. If hidden gems were so hard to come by, how does one go about even finding a hidden gem, and where do you even start?
I wouldn't start in your local supermarket or bottle store or anything else. I think, you know, they talk about the sort of the road less traveled. You know, if you go out into our vineyards, which is really, I mean, it's, I suppose more easy for people in the Western Cape, but for the rest of the country, it's kind of sort of take yourself off their beaten track. You know, take yourself out of your comfort zone and what sort of wines you normally drink. I think it's about sort of just taking that risk, you know, a little bit of leap of faith and trying to find something you wouldn't ordinarily look for. I think that's when you also discover something that you haven't tasted. Also, maybe allow someone to present you something, or you know, have a little party where someone brings something that they think is a hidden gem, and you can have little discoveries in that route. I think, you know, we were afforded with such luxury here in Africa with the opportunity to find stuff. I think it's just got to get out and do it.
Yeah, so try to avoid the main supermarkets, go visit the wine farms, go to the off of the road kind of beaten track little wine shops, and just discover for yourself. You know, you never know what you can find.
I'm also guilty of going to in other people's cellars and going to look for stuff, take out stuff that they wouldn't normally open. So don't look cheeky like that, you know.
Okay, so that's another tip, is to visit your friend's house and maybe go and exchange some wines.
Two thumbs up for that idea.
So obviously don't do it now during lockdown, guys, but obviously after lockdown, and hopefully lockdown ends by Friday next week. We're hoping so. And Jacques, would you like to add anything to that? How does one go about finding a hidden gem?
I think Dave said it all. You know, explore, just go out and try new things, challenge yourself. Just stick to the nice tar road in your comfort zone. We're all out of our comfort zones now in our house, but out of our comfort zones, and it's time to go and read a bit more. Maybe just go and find out. Maybe just plan ahead and maybe go and visit a new place, a new cellar. If you can't, like you said, Dave, in your local bottle shop, you know, you might just find the hidden gem. So, but if you're not going to try, you're not going to explore. Sorry, I don't think maybe one of your friends going to bring it to you. But when you find the gem, it's only going to be a gem if you can share it with someone else. So, no better way than two people to wine and talk about what was and the future. So.
Yeah, Jacques, I love that advice of getting out of your comfort zone. You know, if you are one of those people that say, no, only drink Chenin, or no, only drink like a Cab, get out of your comfort zone, try something different, try a Sauvignon Blanc, try a Cinsault, try, all these different varietals and different brands. If you are very much into buying the same wine all the time because you trust it, get out of your comfort zone, try another brand, try another great varietal, try a blend, try something different, because you'll never know what you can find.
And South Africans, we're very creative. We don't like to listen to others, and we blend Cab and Shiraz. The French will turn in their grave if they hear that.
Yeah, two opposite sides. Yeah, absolutely.
We call it funny names. We have a lot of richness in this country regarding stories, wine blends, places to haven't seen everything. So, just need to go out and explore. You can't get on a boat and find a new continent anymore, but you can go and find a nice wine. So definitely go out.
Yeah, and I'm sure Janine is saying here. She's saying there's quite a lot of hidden gems in Niku's cellar. So I'm sure a lot of us also have quite a lot of wines at home that we are discovering over again and going, wow, I've never seen that wine before. What is this? And I suppose that in its own is also a hidden gem. And Niku, is there anything you would like to add to that?
Well, it's today, if he visit my private cellar here at my house, he will be a bit disappointed, because if we have something nice, something lekker, we drink it. So we don't leave it there for tomorrow. But now, in short, it is, being there from the West Coast, the food and wine culture at the end of the day is part of discovering something nice, because the food and wine has to go together. And most of the old wine shows in those days, those days where the Food and Wine Festival, the only one I think it was in South Africa, in City Hall in Stellenbosch, all of us, we were smoking and shout and whatsoever. So how we could taste wine, I don't know. I think it was more like drink it. But if you go to interesting places, interesting tastings, and especially to the nicer restaurants where the sommelier is there, because in those days there were no sommelier. So nowadays the sommelier can also advise you or give you some tips, which food with which wine. And end of the day, the wine on its own is fine, it's nice, and the food so. But if you have a nice combination and you love it like that, I think then it's easier to get to a style or a certain wine is that, okay, yes, it's because, I don't drink Claret Blanche, but in fact, with this, it was not too bad. And the same at the moment with Chenin. In those days, Chenin was like just a wine, just a dry white. And nowadays, Chenin is more expensive than Chardonnay, but it also has to do with the food and wine culture. They also the new move of enjoying wine here in South Africa. So, yes, you have to go out a bit. You have to be curious, and often, with the rebels, go to the stands of the rebels and see because they dare to put strange things together in a blend. For at my generation, we are more like, we will only stick to this and this. These blends where the youngsters, they more dare to try new things, and then, of course, you can also discover something very nice.
Yeah, and these days you can buy wines online too. So, from a guy speaking on a lot of experience, you have very, very insightful advice. So thank you very much, Nick. Okay, so guys, if you are watching and you have any questions to ask these wonderful gentlemen, please do ask it in the comments and we'll try our best to answer them. I'm on to the next question, and this is for Niku. You've been a winemaker for quite some time, and what advice do you have for budding winemakers to create their own hidden gem wine?
Yes, first rule is moenie skrik nie. So don't, especially if you work at another place, no big boss, they are not interested in your ideas. What is your dream about it? So if you don't dare, you will not arrive there. And you have to start early. You have to put everything together yourself. Start small. Make sure about your direction, what you love and like. Because end of the day, if you just follow a trend which is in wines, and so you have to live with that. So that the wine must be with you, and you must support the label and everything. So do it, put yourself, and then of course, after elke man, you also need a partner. That's sure you can have partners, means of to invest in your company. But if you have some investors in, or you are together with some others in a wine venture, in fact, you just work for another company, then you can stick to the job where you are. So I was lucky that, yes, me and my wife, we are here. I always say me and Standard Bank, but luckily my gate is closed. So if they want to collect me, they will not enter. But no, it is, you put your mind together, you focus on something, and you make sure this is the wine which you love and like, which you will drink every day, any day, every evening, and go for it. And then, because only to invest in wine, I mean, the old joke is there, to make $1 million, just invest a couple of millions, there will be only 1 million left. It is wine business, especially at the moment, it's tough. So you have to live the way. Luxuries, one of my jokes is also no hunting, no golf, no fishing, no 4x4, because all the money goes in. So, yeah, that is, and of course, make sure about experience. Experience is not only what you go collect at the university, and that was my luck that I could walk a bit the world. My dream was to go to America. I couldn't, so I landed up in Europe. But wherever you go and you work with them, you learn something which not today, not tomorrow, but much later when you're on your own. You need that bit of experience, and then it's because you have to be relaxed when you are in your own venture. Also, if you are very nervous about something because you don't know it, you don't touch it, leave it there. You must be comfortable in your wine, must be your passion, your hobby, everything. Then it, yeah, then it's okay. And export is fine, but South African market is also very important. Live with your people, because the wine culture again here and wines for South Africa and overseas is not necessarily always the same style or taste and so. And that is what I did. I was lucky. Yeah, I can go back to the West Coast on the seaside where I was born and have my bottle of wine. But Stellenbosch, dead sure, was a tough one in the beginning, but at the moment I am here in small on my own, and that's what I enjoy. And yes, the moment you start to enjoy something, you don't have to think a lot about what you're busy doing, and then you will have your nice results too.
I definitely second that.
Yeah, and I love that advice, Niku. Moenie skrik nie, you know, that's the first kind of lesson is, you know, have the courage. Just start, just do it. I love that advice.
Oh, it's good advice, because I think, you know, and if people just need to understand that they, you know, been working in this industry for a long time. They've built up enough relationships, and they don't want to go and use them. You know, it is a big leap. You know, speaking from my own experience, but you know, it's there for you. It's just how you use it and choose to make the best of it, and that's where you actually learn a little bit more about yourself and what you're actually capable of doing. So, you know, you got to back the fact that we've got a great reputation for a superb wine producing country. Like, go out there and speak to your people.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jacques, I mean, you as well. I mean, it might not be starting your own brand, but certainly you are very, very experienced in also creating older vintages, you know, and nurturing those vintages so that they do become hidden gems. So maybe you can give us a little bit of advice around how to store your wine to keep them as special as the day that you bought them.
Well, yeah, I mean, in the cellar it's quite easy, but if you purchase the wine, I think that's say 98% of all wine bought is consumed within 48 hours, something like that. I've heard. It's my father taught in the wine industry or anything like that, but he said, you know, if you taste the wine, you like it, buy a couple of cases, put them in your cellar. Now I do know that the houses are smaller these days, but I think there's still enough space in a house for wine. So what my father said, and every year you start drink a bottle. If you drink it and it's not to your liking, let it lay down a little bit longer until that year that you find that wine is hitting the sweet spot. and then you start drinking a bit more. But every year you purchase more wines that you've found somewhere, and those are your, one of your ways of preserving those older vintages. And yeah, you use that as maybe advice or yourself. But if you stand in front of a shelf with maybe 200 bottles of wine, well, there's a different advantage. That's character, and it's got complex gems. And make a note on a bottle if you receive it from a friend with a date on it. Put it in your shelf. Because sometimes, as gifts, I received a lot of wine, and 2 or 3 years later, you don't remember who's giving you that bottle. So at least you can either share it with the friend somewhere in the future, or you can enjoy it and have a message. So and maybe take a selfie and send it to that friend. But there's various different ways of going about at Zandvliet. Yes, preserving the older vintages. We reach 43, 44, and we don't have all the vintages. So 76 is nowhere too is in frames. It's P is one, but it's there hidden gem. So it's still Paul de Wet that signed it. But there's about 7 or 8 vintages that we don't have. And constantly looking for them, trying to find them. Not necessarily buying them, but I've had a gentleman coming through. He had 80 Zandvliet Shiraz, and he received as a gift in '83. And he came to the tasting room. We've got we have all the vintages, and he saw it was empty. And he said to me, he's got the vintage. 3 months later, he returned. He said he's bringing this bottle to its rightful place. So it's still on the shelf right there. Dave is his name, and he's got a Holly person that he writes. But he got from a special friend. So of richness with every bottle. To do it in the cellar, it takes a bit of discipline. It's a lot of money that you stash away somewhere in bottles of wine. But then again, I come back to sharing it with a special person, just a smile, opening that door, even just telling your friend to go down, and I know Dave will like it. Seems like you like to go into cellars, just go and pick a vintage or pick a wine. I think it's very special. So I've got a cellar at my house with a couple of bottles laying down. So it's just about doing it.
Yeah, and I think that's quite
True.
special that someone would come to you and say, I've noticed that you're missing a vintage. And if you've been to Zandvliet before, they've got quite a cool underground museum where they have actually displayed all the different vintages of their wine on the wall. So if you're keen to visit after lockdown, they are in the Robertson Wine Valley. Go have a look downstairs at their wine museum, see what vintages are missing, and perhaps you can help them fill that wall with the vintages that they're missing. I absolutely love that story, that someone noticed that you were missing a vintage and they said, well, you know what, I've got that one at home and here it is. So very, very nice
Fantastic.
story. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so I have a question over here from Werner, and it's for Dave. And he's saying, we currently see a lot of craft beer brands in the brewing industry. Why do we not have that trending with wine?
I mean, it's a good question, but I mean, the craft beer industry is exploding. Have you seen the new shift now is because that they're able to do canning now in South Africa. So there's 2 canning units situated in South Africa. It makes things a little bit sort of cheaper, more economical. It's allowing brands to come out. It's just making things a little bit more sort of fluent in what's happening. The beer shelf life is 6 months. And don't quote me on this because I'm not a beer guy. I've actually just started drinking. So it's a good question, Werner. I've started drinking some Mad Giants, if I'm allowed to quote names, just to get into it. I've just been exclusively wine for most of my life. So yeah, I think it'll come on, because beer is just also, it's a quick thirst quenching element. You open a bottle of wine, you've got to get through it. I think maybe cottoning onto what you're saying right now is that wine in a can could be doing some sort of movements in itself. So that's something that we need to watch. But I think it's also different demographics. If you take Durban again, sorry to mention Durban, but their beer drinking crowd is a lot bigger than our wine drinking crowd. That's also sort of demographic and how it works. So I think it's also accessibility, if I can maybe put that in a nutshell. Is this what is there? What is the culture around the table? What's happening around that? And that's something us as Cape Townians need to actually just sort of share. We're very lucky that we can drive 20, 30 minutes to a winery, where most of us stay. For the rest of South Africa, they don't have that luxury. So, we've kind of get that word out there and just share the experiences of what we're doing and get people more excited about stuff.
Oh, absolutely. We are very lucky to be in Cape Town, where a wine farm is just a few kilometers away. We are extremely lucky. And I know myself that the beer industry is, in fact, the biggest percentage of drinkers in South Africa. So, yeah, wine is still quite a small part of the overall kind of alcohol drinking industry, and beer is king at the moment. So, if there's a trend in beer, it will take off, because there's just so many beer lovers out there compared to wine. I agree with you, David. It is about accessibility, but also education. And I think wine can sometimes be perceived as being a little bit snobby and scary to experience, because it can be quite complex. Whereas a beer is a beer is a beer, which I'm sure there's a little bit of complexity in it. Okay, fine. But I guess wine is, there's a level of art that's involved, and I think maybe sometimes it's just a little bit about education. So for those of you that are watching and you are a wine lover, go out there and tell your friends why you love wine so much, and get them to switch from beer to wine as much as you can, because we need to do all that we can to help the wine industry at the moment.
If I could just add 2 sentences quickly, I think the credibility with wine is something else. We got to look at winemakers as like artists. They've got canvases to work off. They've got different mediums to use. They've got lots of sort of geographical things to deal with. Beer doesn't really have that. It's not a vintage of beer that you got to deal with. So there's a slight little enhancement. You've got a respectability from winemaker to craft beer. And I think that's because I'm a wine connoisseur. I'm a wine enthusiast, put it that way. So we've got to look at these two winemakers up here and go, hey, you guys are artists, and let's put in a bottle for us to enjoy.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I like that statement. You're not a wine connoisseur, but a wine enthusiast, because that's exactly what I am too. And Vanna over here is saying, Cinsault in a tin is nicely chilled for summer. Oh, that sounds absolutely divine.
I love a challenge. You're going to sell it for me.
Yeah. Okay, and then we've got a question here from Stephanie, and she's asking Nico this question. How do you see the trade doing after COVID? Any idea on how things are going to change? Whoa, that's a difficult one for you, but I'm sure you'll be able to answer that.
Yes, anyone's guess, but gut feel is, listening to my friends overseas, where they're almost halfway through it, and listen to the reaction or notice the reaction of just the people outside on the streets. I think we are heading for a difficult near future, because we already had the problem with the drought, so that was a pain. And then, yes, with all the taxes and so in South Africa. And at the moment, yeah, because South Africa is too small to consume all the wine ourselves. We need to export. So a lot of these export markets, they are blocked at the moment. That means they will have still stock there, I'm dead sure, because their shops, most of the shops are closed. So, but they, luckily, a lot of them, especially in Europe, they can still send by post deliveries or so, what we cannot do. The restaurants in South Africa is also difficult, because now being used to sit at home and enjoy your wine and organize more your home party with your family and so, and also to think of, but somebody doesn't have, should not be too close to me because of all the problems and all, say, the virus and so, but it will take us more than a couple of months. I think we have a difficult time for the future now. The support for the wine industry, money-wise, from whoever, I guess this is also almost nothing, because Yeah, from whereas in Europe, as you know, they just press the button, then they have all the taxes and what, so they have the support there. Us, that's sure we in South Africa have to support those who have nothing. So for the wine, and that is in fact where, yes, we cannot drink only Sunday wines. We also have wines for during the week. Now the week wines, the easy ones, they cannot mature, they cannot store that long in the bottle, and so. And I think, yeah, to get that quantity out, especially the bulk wine market. And at the end of the day, everyone is against bulk wine. But if the bulk wine doesn't sell at a nice price, there's no foundation, because you need cash flow also to support, to bottle the better qualities, to buy the bottles and the corks and whatsoever. So without bulk wine sales, the bottle wine sales, it's also difficult. So, but in short, worldwide, yeah, everyone will have much lesser money to buy wine. That means, I think it will still drink wine, but as it was the last, say, couple of years or 10 years ago, where South Africa was very in, that was easy for us, because especially now, if you go here just from us to Stellenbosch and you see all the open land, that means vineyards not there anymore. Yeah, I think there will be more now in the near future, and but it's not easy, because to say a clear one here, because we have to see how easy we will solve the problem in South Africa, because the South Africans drink a bit of wine. On the other hand, the exports, and of course the Americas in China, big markets, they struggle. So tough one. Maybe all of us, the whole wine industry, has to sit together with the bank and say, oh, but you have to wait till Christmas before we will pay back. So
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Christmas seems like so far away, but I guess it will happen like that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and I like that sentiment, you know, that we all carry each other, and we need to think of the bulk guys too, you know, and like you said, like that wine doesn't last forever, and yeah, I'm sure people will also be shopping down, that they can't afford all the expensive wines, you know, so we are in a bit of a stuck between a rock and a hard place, being the wine industry at the moment. But there is that silver lining. We've all got a really great attitude, and some good news announced today. I'm sure you have all heard that we are allowed to export our wine again.
Fantastic news.
So I heard, yeah. So that's really great. I don't know if everyone that's watching, if you've heard, but yeah, that'll be really great for the wine industry. As we wrap up this evening, I want to thank you, gentlemen, for joining. And I want to know what you're eating tonight, or if you've eaten already.
Sure. Very interesting question. That beep that went off was my oven. That got turned. My wife, who was trying to do sort of articles underneath here at some stage. So I guess she's got a surprise for us. I don't know.
Nice, nice. And the rest of you, have you eaten yet, or are you still going to eat something?
I guess my I call it my government associates, that's wife and children. they will be a bit of a pasta, I think, tonight. Yes.
Excellent. The vegetarians have more say in your household then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
No, look,
Good. I think something light. I'm not sure.
You're not sure yet?
I think something light. I'm actually not sure.
Yeah.
I think we're all on
I
that.
actually had my dinner at 3 o'clock already. Hey?
We just keep the evenings light, because during the day it's just, you know, what's around.
Yeah, I ate at 3 o'clock already. So yeah, I had a brie roll and chips.
No, there was a lot of homeschooling today.
Nice. I think that would go great with a Cinso Burry roll.
I know. I know. Yeah, so I already ate at 3 o'clock. So this evening, that's me. This is my nightcap, and I'm going to go to bed now. A nice early night, and I'm going to watch Game of Thrones. I just started watching Game of Thrones. I've never seen it.
So lucky.
And yeah, so yeah, I watched episode 1 and I was a little bit impressed. So I'll be watching the rest.
We'll see you in a few months then.
Yeah, I know. It's the perfect time to binge watch, you know, on something that's actually not such a hidden gem. But yeah,
Oh.
an interesting evening ahead of me. Okay, so thank you very much for joining, and good luck with everything that's to come. And thank you very much for joining, and thank you to the viewers as well for all your questions and interactions. We got some nice comments. So Werner's back. He's a very loyal fan. So thank you, Werner. And
Is that
cheers,
the
guys.
Springbok or is that the imposter? Huh?
Oh, what?
Is he Werner Greff was a Springbok?
Really?
That's- Yeah. But
I don't
that's
know
not
if it's
his
this
preference,
Werner.
no. That's what I said. Is it an imposter?
Oh, I wonder. Okay, so good night, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Cheers, everybody. Have a good week.
Thank you very much. See you when it's
Just
locked